K-Scope 2015 in Florida.
All right, so welcome everyone to the OTN Lunch and Learn Business Intelligence panel. My name is Kevin McGinley with Red Pill Analytics. I'm an Oracle ACE director in the business intelligence space. I'm also the Oracle BI community lead. And there goes the mic. For ODTUG. So before we get started, one, I want to thank OTN for sponsoring this. It's nice to have all of you here in a single room. You know, for those of you that weren't at the symposium on Sunday. And I also want to give a quick plug for some of the efforts that we're doing in the BI community space. We're going to be having some meetups in various cities throughout the United States throughout the rest of 2015. Go out to odtug.com/BI, and if there happens to be a meetup in a city near you, feel free to join us on the date and time. We'd love to have you out there, and we're going to continue to do more things within the BI community to try to make this a great destination place for you for all kinds of things business intelligence related. So how many people were at this Lunch and Learn panel last year? Good number of people. Okay, yeah, that's a fair, decent crowd. So I'm going to largely speak to you right now. The rest of the people can, no, I'm just kidding. So you might notice a little bit of a difference this year from last year. We basically decided from a panel perspective that we were going to kind of, you know, switch it up, change faces a little bit. You know, there's some celebrities that were up here that we just felt we needed to get rid of. That Neil Patrick Harris guy, he just had to go. Mr. Bean, he had to get out of here as well. That guy that looks like Walter White, get him out of here. David Carradine, he's not in the room right now, so it's not fun that I'm busting on him. He needed to go as well. And we decided to bring in some young, fresh, new blood. Well, 1 out of 4 ain't bad. I like that. Yeah. So I'm happy to announce now we've got some great panelists on the panel day. They'll be answering some questions. I'll be moderating, posing some questions to them. However, this is all about you as well. So my mole runner here, Jeremy Harms, will be carrying around a microphone. We are live streaming on the internet right now. Believe it or not, yes, they allowed me live online. I can't believe it. And so as such, make sure if you have a question, raise your hand. Jeremy will sprint like the Flash to you as quickly as a turtle, and we'll basically get you the microphone so that you can ask the question so that the people online can hear you as well. So with that, let's introduce our panel. He is Mr. ArtofBI.com, and he likes taking long walks in the beach in the sunset. From Art of BI, Christian Screen, everyone. He's a teddy bear by day and reaper by night. From Vlamis Software, Ace Tim Vlamis. We always have to have a token international person on the panel, and sorry, I just had to do it. From Summit and Switzerland, Germany area, both combined at the same time, sort of. From Summit, Holger Friedrich. How you doing, Holger? And our only actual young new blood on the panel. He lives up in the Seattle area and secretly grunges to Pearl Jam and Nirvana by night. From Rittman Mead, Mr. Michael Rainey. Okay, so gentlemen, we'll kick off the panel, you know, and then let the audience jump in and see where this takes us. So the things that are kind of compelling in the marketplace right now is that there seems to be a lot of change going on. Everybody likes to talk about change. Oracle likes to talk about change, new products, new directions, new capabilities, et cetera. What I thought we would do is actually take a step back and sort of ground ourselves a little bit and actually talk about, you know, with all of this change talk going on, each of you kind of go down the line and sort of talk about one aspect of business intelligence that you feel hasn't changed much over the years, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing, whatever your perspective might be, but something that's remained very constant that people need to sort of constantly keep in mind and think about as they're implementing business intelligence. I'll take any one of you that wants to volunteer to go first, otherwise we'll...
Oh, you got it? No, you take it. You're in the middle. We can split it. I can go from the end, either way.
No, I just think that what hasn't changed is that the data quality that people have to work on is just as low as it was ever be. It has ever been, and I think these things are not going to change either. You can put things in the cloud, put them on an HDFS file system, or run them through an in-memory options to go mighty fast, but as long as we don't get the data management and the quality up, we won't make it faster or more flashy results, but not better ones, really. So I think there's something that didn't change at all.
Excellent. I'm going to remind you guys as well, try to get a little bit closer to the microphone so people can hear you a little bit better. Sorry, you might need to slide them a little bit closer. I'm not sure if they're picking them up very well back there or not, but.
2.5 minutes.
Okay. So data quality, excellent. Thoughts, Christian?
No, I totally agree. I mean, when you look at the business, I mean, one of the things that always comes up with BI is, how can we get our data? How can we get the data faster? And of course, how can we use it? And of course, if you don't have good data to work with, all the end results are kind of irrelevant. But I'll throw in there one piece which we consistently see, which is just poor project management of a BI project, right? And we like to call BI projects programs, right? Because they're ever evolving. So even from that statute, I think a lot of organizations don't even take that concept further in the organization. They see it as a project starts, maybe it's 6 weeks, maybe it's 6 months, and at the end of that, they think they're finished. So that's kind of a common thing that I've seen over the years. It really hasn't stopped.
Okay. Tim?
So I have two that I'm trying to decide between. The first is time dimensions and poorly modeled time dimensions. I would say that continues to be an area that needs a lot of improvement. The other is giant tables. I know we're seeing more visualizations, but we're seeing more giant tables with 15 prompts on dashboards. And the challenge is they're very difficult to scan, and people don't get consistent insights from them. So what's preferred is to break them down into actually focus tables that people can get consistent data from, as opposed to, one table to rule them all kind of approach. So those would be mine.
So Tim, would you mind maybe drilling in a little bit into the time dimension one? Just because I'm not sure if everybody in the audience kind of picked up on what you were referring to there. Like, what's wrong with time dimensions that you see out there today?
So we see this where sometimes there will be many time dimensions, and then they'll ask users to select between them. And what they're really doing is they're pulling a transactional system or some kind of ERP system. I don't know if it moved further or closer or further away. Anyway, so they end up building the full. It's not driven from an analysis perspective. It's built from a transaction perspective, and from every single item, every data point that we have, we need to pull into OBIEE, and then we need to model in every subject area, rather than starting from what kind of analyses do we want to do, and what information and what data sets do we need to do that effectively, and treating time as one of the most common dimensions that we almost always want to use, and how do we model it effectively for analysis. Rather, it's done from this transaction mentality and this desire to not want to lose anything, and then we see users that absolutely struggle to create a good query.
Got it. Excellent. Michael, thoughts?
So I'll follow on with what you said, Tim. You mentioned the large giant tables.
Yeah.
So as we're increasing data volume, we're increasing hardware, but the data volume is so big that our performance it just can't catch up. So we have all the new database in memory, things like that, but
right.
It's still, we're continuing to throw as much data as we can at it because there's so much out there that we're just.
Can we just use Essbase though? Oh, that's a different panel right now.
But yeah, so.
Excellent. So let me kind of turn to the audience here. So, based on everything that was said up here, as well as kind of what your thoughts are with things that you maybe struggle in your environment, in your workplace today that seems to have been a consistent, constant struggle over time. Is there anything that you guys would like to kind of either tell or pose a question to the panel about with regards to how things have been the same regardless of all this sort of increasing change that seems to be going on around us? Anybody have any thoughts, ideas, questions that they want to share there?
Right up front.
Oh, one in the front here.
Just would like to hear the experience of everyone here in the context of project management technically. How, I mean, if you look at the other programming or other application project management practices, they think of code, check-ins, check-outs, version management, a lot of automating nightly builds, stuff like that. With 11G, we have access to the beans, more APIs, and all that stuff. So can we, I mean, I feel like MUDE is there, patch merge is there, that's it. Can we go beyond that? Are there any tools that Oracle is going to provide to make this development practice efficient? Because developers are all over the world right now.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know who the developer in India or China is doing, and the tester, so you know the topology. So just would like to hear what the current state of everyone is and where the direction is.
So panel, thoughts on that?
Well, I like how he went from project management to like something really, really technical, like in one leap and bound. So if you're talking project management, I mean, that's kind of what I was alluding to, right? Kind of going from a program or project to a program. If you're talking technical, I mean, there's several solutions that are out there. I think, is Mike Duran in the room? You were doing his session, or did you already do your session on the APIs? That was yesterday. So he had a really good chat on how you leverage some of the APIs for OBIE that are already existing, right? And kind of taking a look at those. So that turned out pretty well? Yeah, excellent.
And if you didn't know, this year every session is being recorded. So audio, not only can you get the slides online, but the audio is being recorded as well. So even though Mike's presentation happened yesterday, you can actually go back in time and watch it again with his slides and his audio so you can hear all of his great content. Other thoughts from the panel on this gentleman's comment in front?
Well, I think what you were referring to mostly wasn't the project management issues, but more the technical things like version control and automatic testing and deployment and all of these kinds of things. And I think classic, up until now, none of the BI tools out there that I know of were really supporting a very good software engineering process, or at least a decent software engineering process with collaborative development in groups and all of these kinds of things. And OBIE, unfortunately, is not an exception of that rule. I guess it's just BI tools are more for, end user driven from their development, and so they have their shortcomings there. Thankfully, I think the Oracle is working on stuff there, or is going in directions. Plus, there's other people that basically jumped into this gap and make a business out of that by providing tools and consulting. One of them being you guys, Kevin.
No product plugs here.
And others. So if you look around in the community here,
I'm just the moderator.
I mean, there is some people that are specializing on this. So yes, I think it's of absolute importance, and it's one of the things that I also had on my list that are bad since years, also in many, many projects that I've seen. So if you want to get better with that, there are a few partners here on the conference that you could talk to.
Can I add one more comment? I want to ask everybody in here to make a promise with me, and I'll make it with you, okay? Some of you may be doing this, but if so, I haven't run across your work. So we're going to promise to add comments when we create new objects, all right? I don't do it all the time. I try, but you guys ready? You want to just everybody all together to help somebody else when they go in and look at your work. I promise to add more comments when I create objects in OBIEE. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Lady?
A mandatory field. That's interesting.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So Tim, I'm just saying you could log an enhancement request to make it a mandatory field.
We could make that request, and I would probably immediately like disable it.
So ladies and gentlemen, the first ever Lunch and Learn panel, I solemnly swear, Val. Can't say I've ever seen that one before. So I think there was another question from the back. Oh, we got one up front first. Sorry.
Just to follow up on that. There were rumors a couple of years ago of JDeveloper being taken over from Admin Tool. Do we think those rumors were false?
So the question, to summarize, was years ago there were rumors that JDeveloper was going to become the new admin tool. Do you think those rumors were false? Just a simple yes or no. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question. I think there was work done on it, and I think it was abandoned.
I think it's whatever was done maybe in that direction. Now everybody's heading to the cloud, and anyways, they would have to abandon it because they need a browser-based tool for everything sooner or later, and you don't want to spend development person years on two different things. So that's not knowing what is happening. That is what I would think.
All right. Challenging
one
your
quick comment and note, and maybe a feedback. In the BI, our challenge, we're a relatively new install. We're about 3 years old, and our problem, our challenge has been to get the B part of the BI going, because we are not getting the traction from that side, and that brings it back to the other aspect that you had alluded to, that you get big tables, and to get around that part, to facilitate the reacting to requests, we have built huge transactional tables with everything that we can lay our hands on. And so this is a interesting situation we are in, because we are an EBS shop on the front, and most of the people we have to engage are users from any of the departments. And so we'd be interested in feedback to see how people have gone about trying to pull users in to make sure that there is a champion for you on the business side. Otherwise, having to push a BI out is seems to be a moot point at times.
So in case everybody couldn't hear that, his comment was, how do we get basically the B back in business intelligence, get more user adoption, get the users to the table, have them drive more of what's being kind of developed. So, panel, I know you guys have, some of you have talked about this. What do you think?
I'd say part of it is, obviously engage the users up front, understand what they really need, rather than, building the technology out because it's really cool technology and then saying, here's what we think you need. That's one aspect. And then just understanding how the reports are being used. Is your user going out and downloading to Excel the entire table and then going away for the month and coming back next month and doing the same thing? Or are they actually using the report on screen and just getting the information they need? So getting some data around that and trying to figure out what are they actually doing and what are they trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and this is actually one of my favorite topics. So it's we see it all the time. So it's really around collaboration, right? So Howard Dresner, I don't know if you guys know who that is. He just released a paper on collaborative BI, right? And it really talks about how you can engage the business, combine, the interaction with IT a little bit better. But that also goes into something, that I was kind of alluding to earlier, which is kind of talking about how some companies aren't doing things right to begin with, right? You're doing a project for 6 months and then you're stopping, you're not calling it a BI program. And as you evolve with your BI, let's call it program within your organization, there are such things as like a BICC, so a Business Intelligence Competency Center. And to me, these are some of the more profound basic things that you would want in your organization to really assist with that collaboration. So you're bringing the B, right, the business aspect, into your BI program.
One simple thing that we've started doing is putting visualizations at the top of the dashboard and leaving the big tables underneath, so that you don't take it away from them, because they get very upset if you take something away. and then visually indicating which prompts go with which visualizations through color borders. So that way, usually a lot of these big tables have a lot of prompts too, and you can't necessarily design visualizations utilizing all the prompts, so you just have to visually indicate what's controlling it. But it's helped a lot at a few places, so.
Kevin, we have a comment back here from Nick.
Oh, okay.
Hey guys, so we've been talking about more data, more performance, more quality, and of course something close to my heart, more real time. So it's a couple of comments here, no single question really, but I just want to say, are any of you guys sort of seeing kind of us reaching the thresholds of what, say, an Oracle database can do in terms of BI? And have you started exploring other things like Amazon Redshift? So do you see Oracle moving into kind of a space that provides a different kind of database? I know they do NoSQL already, but something, I guess, more, I don't know, distributed. And then a really blue sky kind of question, do you think then would we ever see it challenging the traditional star schema models that which are so deeply ingrained in our history?
I guess I would say the last point you made I'd answer first, which is basically, is there challenging to the star schema models? From the logical modeling, I would say more or less no, because that's what the business understands. From the implementation side, I think we got the product manager for the challenge in the room, which is Maria Colgan, because I think the in-memory option will basically take away all relational star schemas sooner or later. And that's, by the way, also one technology that gives us lots of real-time possibilities for BI, because it's mighty fast. What I think is very interesting is that we see this divide between people crying out, now we can do big data, we can do BI on Hadoop, which is usually not fast at all, right? Inherently, because of the underlying technology. And we have technologies that are mighty fast, like the in-memory option. And I'm personally very excited about how this is going to develop. How are we going to make BI over these huge data sets and these very different technologies and bring value to the customer? I don't have an answer to that one, but it will be very interesting to see what we all will do with it in the years to come.
Yeah, Nick, I think to your question, because you threw in the Amazon piece, right? So clearly Oracle is a world-class database. It's got a lot of great options, especially with 12, so you can do an amazing amount of, it's an amazing, software system. And I think even Salesforce.com, right, runs on Oracle databases, so I mean, it's pretty robust. But I think one point you brought up was the Amazon and the cloud in general, and I think that when it relates to BI and the Oracle tools, it might be a question of competition, right? I mean, as far as being able to import and export data, right, into the BI tool from external sources. But, and I might be going on a tangent here, but I think Oracle's solving some of those things with like the Oracle BI applications, right, creating cloud adapters and so forth, so that they can get more of this interoperability between the cloud solutions. But, yep, that's all I have to say.
So I want to kind of go against the grain a little bit and say that, and we know all the executives want, the last most up-to-minute data immediately, but quite frankly, they usually don't need it. And it's very important to match the scale of the analysis and the aggregation with the scale of the decision. And, if you're looking at year-to-date sales, you're not going to make a decision on, the future of the enterprise based immediately on what happened in the last 10 minutes. And so I know that's what they want, but I think there's also, we have to deal with the reality. And I think part of what we can do to kind of help is to do more exception reporting. And so that is automatically discover what's new and different and important and reveal it on dashboards so that that insight comes about immediately, and that is important. And so kind of flip it around, and rather than always have to do everything immediately. And we're also excited about the in-memory option, so I don't want to, I agree with that 100%, but I just think there's sometimes a disconnect between you know, what the sales groups are promoting and what executives are hearing and thinking they need versus what is actually going to help them operate more efficiently and effectively.
Kevin, comment from Dr. MD.
It's kind of a question kind of related to this. Try not to change the subject too much, but so imagine that there's an asteroid heading towards the Earth and we're all going to get wiped out, but you have got the chance to take one technology to the new planet. The choice...
Another first.
Yeah.
The choice that you have is between like a Hadoop-based system, so unstructured, you know, the information that you get out of there, what value does that information give you, or on the other server, you could take OBIEE, so essentially structured business intelligence. So really the question is, you're about to get on the spacecraft, it's counting down 10, 9, which server are you going to take?
Did I miss the bar on the way there?
The cookies.
That's a good question. Just teasing.
So, I guess assuming we're starting the human race over from the beginning, I would say the data discovery side, you know, something where you can actually try to find out, you know, I have all this information from the other planet, let's find out what we can do with it, and then eventually build out something that makes it a little bit easier to use and understandable. But you want that discovery rather than being structured and stuck with what you already have.
Holger?
In my opinion. Yeah.
Well, I just do the opposite, right? Given that we are not Neanderthals when we leave the planet, but maybe in our intellectual current state, I take the structured database because that would well, give me much more possibilities to quickly find the information that I need to get started on the other planet. And I don't think that we need, you know, we don't need all the information that there is to survive there, but the right stuff very quickly. So I'd go with the good old Oracle data.
So I just want to be clear about something there, Holger. You just equated Hadoop to Neanderthals? Is that what you just did there? Did I hear that right?
No.
No?
But,
okay.
but,
all right.
no,
I just wanted to clarify.
But I mean, compared to a state-of-the-art relational database, I would say that Hadoop and HDFS is basically Stone Age.
But now, but now all of your models and everything in OBIE are built off of the old planet. And so now you're going to a new planet.
Well, you know,
need to discover.
Most likely the laws
star.
of physics and these kinds of things will slowly be seen.
Kevin, we have a comment here from the crowd.
Well, wait, we didn't finish with the.
Sorry about that.
We got to go down the line.
Please, carry on.
All right.
Pick a side.
So I will say, if you ask most organizations, if you ask internally, what's the biggest need? There's one answer that you hear at least 70% of the time, and that's communication. We need to communicate better. And the biggest problem here is that different people don't talk to each other, and right? You guys tell me if I'm wrong, right? And so having coherence in a BI system, which means that we're getting consistent, similar interpretation of the results, is incredibly important. So no matter which technology, it's really about how do we drive organizational coherence? How do we get similar understandings of business position and business performance? And as of today, I think that is kind of emphasizing more the Common Enterprise Information Model paradigm, because it can do that. It doesn't always do it, and it doesn't do it often enough. And if we can't get it to do it better, then we should move forward. But anyway.
So in all that, you're taking OBIE. Is that what I heard?
I'm taking a new OBIEE that
on top of it. You're doing a mashup of the servers. Is that what I heard?
With R on top of big data, so that we can do predictive models.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is 12C out before the asteroid hits? I think that's the real question. Could you let us in on that? Do you know when the asteroid's hitting? You can tell the future. We heard in the keynote.
Yeah, I was going to say, is Microsoft Excel an option in any of this?
It does it all.
If that's not an option, I'm going to side with Mr. Rainey on this one, right? I'll go with the discovery.
All right.
Yeah, comment from the audience?
Question in the back.
Hi, thanks a lot. I'd like to hear what the panel says on, so we get a lot of pressure with different visualizations, tools, Tableau, ClickLink, Spotfire. What do you guys think of positionally? Where does OBI fit versus these tools? Is there a paper out there or something that talks to what space each one belongs in? I'd just like to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, can I answer?
You step right up.
So there is a new book out on data visualization for Oracle Business Intelligence 11G.
Who might have written that book? Wrote that book.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's a comparison paper, but certainly the data visualization space is a very hot one. I mean, I try to read Perceptual Edge, which is Stephen Few's blog. It's both informative and entertaining to hear him rant on about terrible things. So I would say that, and there are others as well that are pretty good. I don't know that any of the platforms are completely in the favor of the, gods of data visualization at this point in time. There's some good systems out there, and you can do good visualizations with any of them. But you have to know what they look like and work towards it.
I'll throw in something there. So one of the most successful projects I've seen to date, and I won't mention the name of the company, but they're a fairly big company, as far as visualizations and having a strong business impact, was when the organization actually brought in their marketing team and their graphic designer to work with the project to help build out the dashboards. And they went through several sessions with this graphic designer, and basically what it did is it actually allowed the business to believe that what was happening was a complete collaborative project, right, within the company. It wasn't just BI or business versus IT. They brought marketing in, so that kind of like made it official. So marketing did, wireframes and everything like this. The business accepted it, and then the folks who were building the BI dashboards, they went and built it. And that type of collaboration back to the communication, I think, was very effective. What they wound up with was very amazing visualization interface, inputs, and everything. So.
Stuart?
I was going to say, wouldn't most projects give you wireframes that look like Excel? I mean, honestly. I mean, I think one of the questions is, that I have is that we all talk about, dashboards and building better dashboards, and I'm obviously in favor of that. But at the end of the day, it's not what they want. So have we missed the boat, or are we not communicating effectively? Because what they want is Excel. So, I mean,
Tableau is selling pretty well.
Well, every project I go into, they're dumping data into Excel. So is that because we're failing them as implementers, or is that because we're not communicating the message, or are the tools not such that they can handle it? So I'm just wondering, I mean, I know all of you have seen that, right?
Yeah.
So are we failing them?
Yeah, I think we are.
Well, if that's a question for me, I mean, I think ultimately there is a bit of fail there. But I think it's due to the way that BI projects are run in general. So we do a lot of time, we spend a lot of time educating our customers, our clients, on how to actually run a BI program. And yes, this takes more time up front with the planning piece, but the result is so much better in the end. You spend less time, finagling things and, rehashing things out. And that goes to like the wireframing as well. If you bring in that marketing person for a day, a few days, if you plan ahead for a week or so, you get the buy-in from all teams, you're gonna wind up with a better cohesive project. You guys, I don't know if anyone's been on a Tableau project as of recent, but the Tableau projects, I mean, they are iteratively changing the graphs and charts in those projects more than you would see in an OBIE project. They're just doing it over and over again because they never actually standardize on that actual design. So yeah, they get the fancy graphs and charts right away, but they keep changing, so they're almost like wasting time and taking that approach. So plan ahead is really the key, but I think a lot of clients that we see, they might not be educated enough and they might not even want to pay for that upfront work. So that's my take on it.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
following
Michael.
on to that, part of the problem is the project kicks off when a BI tool is purchased, and you've already pigeonholed yourself into that tool. You're not going to be able to go and talk to the user about their requirements, and they say, I want it to look like Excel, and here's what Excel does for me. Then you go back and say, well, we can do it this way, but not quite the way you want it. And that's when they start rebelling and going back to just dumping their data out and using it that way in Excel. So get the requirements up front, make a decision on your tool, and then you can go out and actually build something they'll use.
Yeah, and I'd like to say something nice about OBIE in that respect, which we do most often is, I mean, the requirement engineering step to get the buy-in from the people involved, to show them that you could do things that are more than Excel using OBIE, that's the important bit. So, and the nice thing about the OBIE with the metadata model, where you can basically plug in different physical sources for the same dashboards, is that you can, right when you start the project, when your warehouse people start gathering the data and integrating it and stuff, you can just make a few Excels, for example, with some sample data, and you run your requirement engineering workshops basically using OBIE together with the end users, showing them what they could get. That's also very good for getting better definitions of KPIs up front and stuff, but also it shows, basically then they adopt this thing because it's their thing, right? They have been really working on it all along. And in the end, when your database guys have the data ready on the enterprise platform, on your Exadata or whatever you have, you just plug it in and ta-da, you get the dashboards, and the people will love them because they are theirs. They worked on it. So that's what I would do to get a better adoption there.
We also sometimes see a lack of willingness to iterate the repository. And so we end, you know, we've seen clients that have tons of union statements in the front end, for example. And, you know, you're just like, oh no, why don't we do this in the data model where it belongs? And, you know, that belongs to IT, and there's a lack of resource there, and they don't want to get into it, and then it's a political fight, and there's friction between that group and the other group, and so has anybody else found that, or no, or? Yeah, so anyway, you know, kind of developing it from the front end, from the analysis perspective, back into the model, back into the physical sources, enables a much richer, useful kind of experience as opposed to this using OBIEE as an ETL tool, which it's not, yeah.
Comment from Adrian.
Heard that one before.
Yeah, I think I agree with Stuart in that if they're downloading, then we failed our objective. Would you say that it's best for IT, the IT project, or end users to be building dashboards?
So the question was, just to repeat it for anybody who couldn't hear, what do you think is better, IT or end users to build standard dashboards for people?
Is that the self-service BI question?
Yeah, sounds
Is that the self-service BI? You know, you basically...
Not just running it yourself, but building it yourself.
Right.
I'll take it, I'll take it. So I think it's like all other kinds of publishing. If you have a large enterprise and you think you can have anybody in the organization publish work on the company website, then by all means have everybody develop their own BI, you know, their own, and have it spread across the organization with individual effort. And you'll kind of get a similar result with some people using word art and, you know, all kinds of crazy graphics. It won't be well designed. And so the idea is the broader the audience, the more we need professional design help so that it is well done and it's effective and it meets the objectives of that particular communication. And so I would see BI as being more similar to other types of marketing efforts and other types of design efforts, whether it's in engineering or production or marketing or sales, wherever. We need to have that input into helping people learn how to use BI tools more effectively, learning how to do analysis more effectively, and learning how to do visualizations more effectively. There's a lot of training needed.
So let's take a quick poll of the audience. So I'm assuming everybody in here has a general OBIE environment that they're kind of building off of. How many of you let your end users build content for other end users?
Yeah.
Okay. Now keep your hands up. How many of you let them do it in production? Yeah. Okay. So most hands still staying up. Okay. Interesting. So I think, you know, that's an interesting part of the question is you know, and Tim's hitting on an interesting point, you know, how much do you trust end users to build that content, and if you are letting them do it, you know, are they doing it in a typical development life cycle, or do they just go out and do it in production? And you know, I think there's some interesting dynamics going on there. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, I'll throw out one point, and it seems to resonate with most people, but how many people used OBI 10G back in the day, or even Siebel Analytics? Do you guys remember when it was called Answers? You know, you were using it for the development tool. Well, if
It's
you notice,
still called Answers, right?
Yeah, right. So it's called Analysis right now because you're doing analysis work, right? But what they've also changed was a BI Publisher piece of that to reporting. So I think what's happening, and I think it's just kind of an evolution, like we had decision support, and before everything was called BI, and now we're moving to this kind of world of analytics because it's all-encompassing. But the idea of analysis versus reporting is something I think every organization needs to understand. Analysis is for more of your almost self-service ad hoc reporting usage, or some more your power users. But reporting, kind of the canned reporting, is what your CFO, your VPs want to see. They don't want to do the ad hoc stuff. So it's really a question of, does your organization understand the difference between these aspects? And there's many more of those in the OBI product as well. I mean, I could ask you guys how many people are using SmartView to Stuart's question right earlier. How many dumping data to Excel? Well, why don't you just use SmartView? That's a piece of the product. And so it just goes back to education and communication and stuff.
Comment from Wayne.
Christian went into that area that my next question was the SmartView. Because we find people saying they need to be able to take it offline to do it because they don't have time online. And this was a question on the discussion forums a couple of weeks ago. What do we say? How do we deal with people that say, I need to do this offline because I don't always have an internet connection?
Good question. I would say go buy a iPad. No, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a very good question, right? Because a dump to Excel is pretty easy. I mean, to tack on to what we talked about earlier, I mean, would you just disable the export button in OBIEE so nobody can export to Excel?
Yes.
I mean, would that piss off your users, right?
10G had disconnected analytics, right?
Disconnected analytics. Now we have the mobile.
Awful.
It was
awful.
I
know.
Yeah, I would just throw out the mobile, right? But then again, we see that there's reasons why people aren't using the mobile app. So when we talk about disconnected analytics or getting your data on the go, again, I think it all boils back to education and working with folks. And I know everybody up here on the panel knows how to use the tool in and out, but not all of the customers of OBIE do.
So, yep. So you've established yourself on the new planet. You've already split into two factions by the sound of it. Anyway, so you're setting up a system where you're trying to give information to the inhabitants of your new planet. They've all got mobile devices. You can only choose either the ability for them to search for information. So if anyone was at the BI Symposium, you may have seen BI Ask that Matt Malella was showing and Jacques. Or they can receive alerts, so they can be told when they need to know something, or they can search for something that they think they need to know. So, another choice, sorry.
We'll start at Christian's end this time.
I'll go short answer. I'm going to say, it depends. I'm going to go search, man. Google rocks. What are you going to do?
You're not going to commit? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, I'm going search.
Oh, search. I'm sorry. I didn't.
I'd probably go search, ambient findability kinds of, yeah.
What does that even mean?
What does that mean? It's a great book.
Okay.
I'd go search too, because I mean, where are the alerts coming from, right? Who built the models that send me these alerts and stuff? And if I'm in a strange new environment, maybe I need some more freedom to search and not get a false alert or whatever.
So structured database, but freedom
they
to...
can send alerts too.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And search.
Touche.
Search as well. Yeah. Ditto for all that. Yeah.
So let's do another audience poll here. So how many of you in the audience send out agents to your users through OBIEE? Okay. So keep your hands up. Put your hand down if you don't put conditions on those agents that have something to do with when such and such a thing happens or whatever. So I'm not talking about reports that get sent out every day or every week or every month. If that's you, put your hand down. Keep your hand up if there's like conditions, kind of like what Mike was getting to with regards to alerts. Okay, interesting.
Interesting.
You know, because one of the things that I find interesting in that conversation is that sometimes it's really hard to get the business users to trust the alert mentality, and that world might be shifting because of mobile devices.
Yeah.
But the sort of, you know, only tell me when I need to know, sometimes there's a trust factor there that's hard to get over. So it's good to see some hands stayed up there.
Comment from the front.
Comment from the front.
Okay, so this question is for the panel. So I come from a manufacturing environment. I work for General Electric, and I wanted to ask the panel if, see, I know what all innovations we are doing in the predictive analytics side when it comes to Brilliant Factory and Internet of Things. I'd like to see what kind of experience you have, and if you can talk for some of the things which you experienced in the area of predictive analytics with respect to manufacturing.
Okay, so the question was, for anybody who couldn't hear in the back, this gentleman wants to know what kind of experience the panel has with anything to do with Internet of Things and doing sort of predictive analytics in the manufacturing space, specifically if possible. Yep, you know, whereby you might be applying kind of advanced algorithms to manufacturing sensor type data. Anyone? Anyone?
I saw a video once. But I was going to make one point. I'll make it quick. Sorry, Tim. I think with predictive analytics, it's really not going to take off as much as people think it will in the BI space until there's basically pre-packaged predictive analytics solutions, right? So many of you guys might be familiar with the Oracle BI applications, right? These are pre-packaged analytic solutions. I don't think even Internet of Things, however you want to look at it, higher education, finance, whatever, I don't think predictive analytics is going to, you know, jettison until there's pre-built solutions. Whether Oracle does that or one of the partners, that's my take on it. So.
Yeah, so I think we're doing more training right now than we are actual implementation projects in predictive analytics. And it's interesting, the advantage there is that you get a common foundation of understanding of the different algorithms and the different traditional business use cases. What's interesting is when you find someone from an area using the algorithm in a new way. An example would be we were doing work with a warehousing logistics firm for manufacturers, and they got excited about market basket analysis. Market basket analysis is you're usually looking at co-occurrences. That product A was sold with product B with product C, and so retailers use it to design merchandising strategies and things like that. So it's kind of a retail use case most traditionally. They got excited because they were going to use it for picking systems for the warehouses. So they have these giant 500,000 square foot or 50,000 square meter warehouses, and they were looking at how do we co-locate different items that are picked at the same time. And so, this is something I never thought of, and it's when you start to engage with a diverse group of business users and you kind of work back towards the fundamentals, they can get very, very excited. And I know that this firm is kind of saving millions of dollars now, just from a relatively short exposure to some of the predictive analytic functions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been dealing with that kind of problems 14, 15 years ago. Before I went purely into warehousing and BI, I've been working at a competitor for General Electric, and we did predictive maintenance and all of these kinds of things. But back then, of course, nobody had the data at hand that we have today, because it was just produced somewhere in the production lines or in the running machines, and it would go away because nobody had the capacity to transport it and store it. I think there is really a big change in manufacturing, production, and maintenance going to happen. And there, of course, the Hadoop clusters and whatever come in handy to get everything stored and pre-analyzed. But in the end, I mean, the most important analysis, I guess, will be done later on in databases. So we'll really have this architecture that also Oracle promotes, where you have this data lake, or however you want to call it, in front to pre-aggregate the data, and then you get it into the database, and then hopefully you have an Exadata system or something that can score models already in the storage layer, so you really can get models for everything and run it on everything and push that up to your BI.
Comment.
You got okay. We'll go one more question, and then I want to pose another question to the panel.
So this is designed specifically to make this awkward for you to answer, especially one of the people up there. What was your favorite client and project in the BI space? And they're all watching too. So, and who was it, if you can name them, and what made it your favorite?
Clearly, my current client is my favorite.
Yeah.
I hope he's watching.
Well, I don't have a name for you, but I mean, this is very selfish, of course. I think very good clients are clients that haven't been exposed to BI too much already. So basically, they don't have many failed attempts of things, or people that think they know it all already. So you don't have to, you can start greenfield basically, and you can take them on a journey, and they don't have prejudices against this and that yet, and then you can really have great results. So that's a selfish argument, of course.
Yeah, I'm going to go generic as well.
Yeah.
But it's more of, for me, it's I've done a lot of health checks and things like that, or come in and help figure out if I'm using ODI or Golden Gate the right way. And I actually like the clients that have taken the extra step to go out and learn it on their own, or even when teaching a training class on ODI, if they've gone into the product for a couple of months and tried to use it, then they can come with some more pointed questions and understand a little bit about the product, and we can get into some more detailed things. So I like the client that has actually done a little bit of work up front. So.
Such a tough question.
Yeah.
I mean, no names,
Sorry.
but we got to go. You want to go?
Yeah, I would say favorite client comes to mind as one that we've been able to kind of make some breakthroughs with visualization and do some really exciting work with map views and kind of, visualizing their data on maps and digging into it and literally developing some concepts that is presented back to the business. And, this is something that they didn't know they wanted until they saw it. And we find that a lot of times is that if we just go and do traditional requirements gathering, we're going to get a stack of 2,000 Excel spreadsheets. And if we can show them some things that can be done and model it, and then and they can respond to it a lot better than they can ask for it. So we've developed that pattern with a client in particular, and it's really fun. They're excited, we're excited, and that makes it a good relationship.
It's such a tough question. I try to make all my projects fun, successful projects, right? And it usually turns out that way. Probably there was a client downtown Chicago. I can't give any names, but first of all, the location. I mean, you can't beat that, especially in the fall. Great client. They had a really nice budget to work with. That always helps.
Definitely.
They were receptive. They were open to getting training, doing things the right way. They had a lot of technology and wanted that consultancy assistance. And we found that working with them that they had a vision. I think that's the biggest piece that I would say about this client. Their vision was amazing. It wasn't so grandiose. It was just Star Wars like, but it was really profound in the direction of leading their business on the right path. And we were able to assist them with that, with many different data sources and a lot of good technology behind it. So.
I think that sounds similar to what Holger was saying. Receptive to change, receptive to your expertise, right? Yeah, I say the same. Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit, and just from polling the audience over the last almost an hour here, it seems like we've got a fair amount of users in the audience that have pretty well-established systems. I mean, they raise their hands for some pretty mature things on the maturity curve. So if you could give, if each of you could give them advice, they've had systems that have been going on for a long time. things have sort of snowballed over time, maybe some practices, bad habits that have been repeated for too long. Maybe they're looking for new ways to kind of energize it, give it life, put something new out there and get more adoption. Maybe they've got challenges with regards to performance and you know, the system's getting very clogged up with a lot of stuff. What's one thing that you might say, hey, if I've had an OBIE system for the last 4 years and it's been, kind of moving along, but, I need some, put some fibrillators on it and jumpstart it a little bit. What's that one thing that I would do? Thoughts?
I do workshops.
Okay.
We've had some nice experiences with some lunch and learns and some afternoon workshops where we bring in people and we kind of do some of the sessions that we do here at the conferences. And we just expose some of the business leadership and some of the, kind of the power users to best practice approach. And we get away with saying things that the people at the client site, they can say it and they're not heard the same way. And so it doesn't take that much to set aside an hour or two and do a data visualization workshop, do a best practice for designing analyses or queries, and it can really turn an organization around. The eyes come open.
Go ahead.
So one of the things you were saying is it's kind of built on itself. It's bloating a little bit. It's some of the things are in there might be 5 years old. Try to understand how the system's being used, and then go out and trim it down. What's not useful, get rid of that, and build out something that is.
Go ahead, Holger.
Yeah, I mean, Michael and Tim already almost said it all. It's basically usage statistics, see what's happening, why it's happening, where are your shortcomings, where are your performance problems. It's the workshops it's a constant struggle to first to get and then to keep the users buy-in for these kind of things. So you got to do that. I think what's always a good idea after 4 or 5 years is to take a little money to do an exercise to health check your metadata model in your OBIE server.
Absolutely.
And maybe streamline it, as Michael said, throw out old stuff, but also look at, are there the usual best practices, are they still in there? Because there are several people usually working on these things over time, and they shortcut, and it's a software engineering thing. You got a health check and maybe redesign or optimize it after time.
Okay, Christian, thoughts?
These guys are just hitting the nail on the head. Honestly, what Holger and Michael are saying are spot on. And then of course what Tim's saying, alludes to what we've been talking about, what I talked about earlier, which is a BI Competency Center, right? Yeah. I think every organization needs to try to establish one of those, even if it's just a small one to start up. You'll get more buy-in. But if you think about that, that's kind of the divide between the business, to the gentleman that I think is now gone, from the BI side or the business side to the technology side, right? So from the business side, you want to bring people in, get the communication going. So okay, that's a BI Competency Center. From the technology side, when was the last time you guys let your oil change go more than 3,000 miles over when it should have been actually changed in your car, right? So go back to Holger's point of, hey, maybe a health check, maybe it's time for that checkup, right? And I don't know what time frame or how much that's going to cost, but it is a maintenance, right? So your BI system is going to get to the point of maturity. And at that point, you need to reassess it a little bit. You need to look at it, right? It's a program. So that might be a health check or just looking at some more technical aspects.
Great. Thanks, gentlemen.
Kevin, do we have time for one more, or are we out of time?
No, we gotta wrap up.
Yeah, okay.
It's time to wrap up. Sorry, apologies.
Kevin, may I have a final remark from my side? Just a quick one?
You may have a quick remark.
Quick one. What I think is extraordinary for me is we've been talking here for about an hour, and nobody ever mentioned the word cloud and BI. Right. Just maybe let everybody let that sink in, because that's a very interesting discussion in itself.
It is.
So cloud and BI is the new future. No, I'm just kidding. So I want to thank our great 4 Oracle aces, Christian Screen, Tim Vlamis, Holger Friedrich, Michael Rainey. Thank you all for your great questions. Thank you, Internet, and go on to your next session. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
We agreed on the last.